If you're looking for one of the toughest side steps in the category that can also double as lower rocker protection for your 15 and newer Super Crew or Super Cab off-road, then the ADD Rock Sliders here would be an absolute no-brainer. Now, the ADD sliders will feature an incredibly tough 120 wall steel build, black powder coat, and even some included LED lighting, all for right around $1,500 price point, which yes is steep, but you won't find a tougher step in the category. Install isn't terribly difficult, but keep in mind these suckers are heavy, so therefore you want to have a buddy around to help you lift everything into place. But either way, figure a couple of hours from start to finish with that included wiring, and I'd say middle of the road 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, with a full walkthrough to come later in the video. So full disclosure here, guys, I did add these ADD sliders to my Raptor shortly after we completed the build, and I absolutely love every minute of them. Now, not only do these things look absolutely killer, but are completely functional as well, and I'm confident that if I ever do get a little high centered on an obstacle or anything like that off-road, I'm not going to totally tear up the lower rockers on my Super Crew. Now, one thing that I do want to address here that some people might take issue with, and that is the fact that these secure to the factory location on the standard running board studs on your F-150 and not to the frame. I know some of my Jeep buddies out there always say, well, listen, it's not technically a rock slider unless it mounts to the frame. And while yes, there is some truth to that, making that happen on a newer F-150 isn't as easy as you might think. So therefore, I'd say this is probably as close as you're gonna get to a true rock slider while still maintaining a relatively easy install. But with semantics out of the way, let's talk about what you are actually getting here. And again, in my opinion, one of, if not the toughest steps in the category. 120 wall steel plating, fully built and welded here in the USA in the great state of Arizona. In fact, if you guys want, you can actually see how some of these parts come to life. Feel free to check out our tour video of Addictive Desert Designs, or ADD, on our YouTube channel. You even get to see one of these puppies being built, and I actually did some work on it myself. So pretty cool video, good way to check out what they actually do and how these things are built. Now, the steps are dimpled up top here for some traction purposes and do feature the ADD Rock Slider logo front and center there, CNC cut. And that logo does get illuminated thanks to the included LED strips and wiring that basically tap in your door and the dome light wiring, which, by the way, do allow the lights to illuminate, turn on and off automatically with the door opening and closing. Pretty cool stuff. Finally, guys, the slider portion is given a nice smooth surface underneath here to help distribute the weight of the truck on any given obstacle off-road and help essentially the truck slide off, for lack of a better word, any rock or obstacle that you happen to get up on the trail. So we've talked about that burly plate steel construction along with the traction surface here, guys. You are getting traction surface the length of your cab, by the way. But I did also want to point out that these have been finished off in that satin black powder coat for durability over the years, of course, and to help prevent any corrosion on that steel itself. And if you should encounter any issues with these things, ADD does have your back with their 1-year limited warranty on the steps themselves. But now let's get into the installation. And again, these things aren't exactly light at roughly 75 pounds per side, mind you. So with that in mind, you might want to grab a buddy before getting started, as I did with my buddy Andrew, who's tackling the install for you guys. So here it is, without further ado, detailed walkthrough and quick tool breakdown.
Tools used in this installation: 1/4" drive with an 8mm socket, 3/8 drive with 13mm sockets, deep and short, a universal swivel, impacts optional, a sharp knife or razor blade, electrical tape, wire strippers and crimpers, a pair of channel locks or a nice pair of pliers, and a trim panel removal tool. All right, guys, let's get this rock slider on. Get a 13mm socket. I like to use a deep one with a universal swivel on an impact. You can use just a regular socket wrench. I'm also going to go grab a jack to put on the center of this side step so we can move it under and jack it up, because it is quite heavy. All right, so I have Justin over here helping me instead of a jack. And there are 3 studs on the back of the pinch weld here that we're just going to lift this running board / rock slider into place. And then we are going to back it up by our washer and our 13mm nuts. So here are the studs that I was talking about on the back of our pinch weld underneath our cab. And we are just going to tighten up these 13 I'm going to be using an impact. All right, moving forward on the rock slider, we're going to tighten up these 3 nuts. All right, let's move on to wiring. All right, guys, so we are still on the driver's side forward of our running board, and just up here you can see a grommet. We are actually going to remove this grommet. It is underneath the floor mat just in front of the driver's seat, so we got to pop our door sill off, get this grommet popped out, and run our wires. All right, so to run our wires, we are on our passenger side because we have to have access to this kick panel right here. So we have to remove some of these trim pieces. The sill comes off first. What I do is just put a finger behind here and lift up. You can use a trim panel removal tool, or be careful with a flathead screwdriver because you don't want to mar the finish on that. So just set that off to the side. We're also going to take up this piece of trim. That one just pulls straight back. Now we're going to lift up our carpet here, get it over this tab here, and you can see our grommet. Then we're going to push our grommet through. We're also going to cut a slit in it so we can run our wires. But there's going to be a wire loom right here that we are going to have to tap into, so we're carefully going to remove this tape and splice our wires with an alligator clip. All right, guys, this is the wiring harness that ADD or Addictive Desert Design supplies with you. Now we're going to take our ground and our positive side. You can see that we have a short one that's going to be for the passenger side here, and then we have a long loom that's going to run to our driver's side. But what we're going to do with this is take our grommet that we just pushed out, cut a slit in it so we can run that positive wire and our ground wire through it. You got to make it big enough for that terminal there, or that eye. And I'm actually going to poke a little bit of our wiring loom. All right, just like that. Now I'm going to go up from the bottom and push the ground and the positive through and make sure our grommet is seated. Make sure you seat that grommet evenly all the way around. Awesome. Now we can run our power and our ground wire. All right, so since our next step includes splicing into our factory wiring harness, I'm going to remove our negative side terminal from our battery just to make sure there's no flow of electricity through our system. This is always good practice if you're working on any electrical component. So just put that off to the side. Now our vehicle is safe to work on. All right, guys, so what we're going to do now is wire up the LEDs for our Addictive Desert Design rock sliders. And this is a wire stripper and crimper. So I'm just going to strip back a little bit of this wire here. Next, I'm going to take my knife here. We are going to find our gray with purple wire. Looks like it's right around there, so let me carefully remove this tape, making sure not to splice into any other wires. There you go, peeling back a little bit there. All right, I'm just gonna peel back a little bit more so we have some room to work with, and pull that wire out a little bit further. All right, and that should be good there. Now we have to find our wire. And that looks like it's right there. That may be a gray and brown. That is gray and brown. We need gray with a purple stripe. All right, guys, so we located the gray wire with the purple stripe. Again, this is for your dome light. So anytime that you open up the door and your lights pop on, so will the running board lights. As well, when you unlock it, your exterior and your interior lights will come on, as well as your running board lights. So this is an alligator clip. You can see that there are 2 channels to put your wire. We are going to put the gray and purple wire through one of these channels, and then our power wire for our step. So let's do that now. What you're going to need for this step is a pair of pliers to press down on this clip, and what that will do is strip back the wire and put the copper through that channel. So bring the clip in, run it through just like that. Make sure it is sitting properly in there. Make sure your red wire is still in there. We're gonna press down as hard as we can. Get our pliers, which I have a pair of channel locks here. Grasp on the end here. And press down. All right. All right, so there is a little tab here on the back just to lock it in place. Now we're gonna follow this up with a little bit more electrical tape just to seal that off. And our last step is to connect our ground. We're gonna connect it right here to an existing ground point. All right, so let's attach that ground wire. Again, this is a 13mm socket on the end of my 1/4" drive. Kind of a weird shaped nut there. All right, we're gonna tighten that up. So before we wrap all this up, we're gonna wire our other step, test it out, and then put everything back together. Because we would hate to put everything back together, test it out just to find it doesn't work. So let's keep this to how it is right here and wire our step in. All right, what we're doing now is running our harness to our rock slider step. And I just picked a spot in our frame that has a good hole on both sides that we can run our harness through. Now, I recommend using some zip ties to keep this from moving. There is quite a few things that you can connect it to. And now, ADD did supply you with some butt end connectors here with some shrink wrap at the end. We're gonna take the ends of our LED here and put these into our butt connector. I already stripped back our wires here, so it's just gonna be really easy install. Just put them in there and crimp the butt end connector. So let me grab my crimpers here. Make sure it is on there nice and tight. Okay. You can see where I crimped it right there. So now we're gonna crimp our ground wire. All right, and they even supplied you with a little extra plastic loom here so you can hide your wires. Let's get that over. All right, repeat those steps on your passenger side and then test your lights. All right, now I'm connecting my negative terminal. Awesome, looks like they are lit up. All right, once that we tested our lights and we know that they work, we're going to put some electrical tape over our harness, put our carpet back over that and our 2 trim pieces, and of course, enjoy your new rock sliders. You do want to make sure that your weather stripping is behind this panel here. So I'll just pull it out a little bit. All right, guys, that's gonna wrap up my install of the Addictive Desert Design rock slider with side steps and LEDs. For all things F-150, keep it here at AmericanTrucks.com.